Right here in my district, Montgomery County Public Schools is wealthy. It graduates largest number of IB students, number one in the school. Yet there are still those expectations working to the detriment of Black and Latino students. We still have a gap in graduation. So with the best resources, with the best curriculum, with the best teachers, we still have to change some of those attitudes and behaviors that are not focusing on the need of those kids that most need it and make learning relevant to them. Just as an example, I have a son who's getting his PhD in math in Tucson, Arizona. His dissertation is on teaching calculus to Tucson kids, poor Latinos, through social justice. The energy, the interest in learning, when students are looking at how can I use calculus to determine the difference in wealth in nations from one to the other, the amount of spending from one school to the other, and how does that derivative of change reflect on the quality of the life of me and my community? How can I get engaged in changing that? Total difference than an irrelevant curriculum that simply says you have to learn this higher level rigorous thinking, critical thinking, but has nothing to do with what that individual student's culture, language, concept of the world is really being meaningful to them. Our schools have to change.
You know, in any given year, you can count the number of Latino PhDs in science and technology on your two hands. So congratulations to him and congratulations to you. Clarence, one thing that struck me about these kids is that I bet they leave school at 3 o'clock knowing that they are known. That's Cassandra, that's Tommy, that's Joshua, that if they faltered or failed, someone in that school would know about it, talk to them, talk to their parents, where if you look at failing schools, kids are just floating down the river, not convinced that anybody's aware of what they're up to.
You know, Michelle Reed, and I've been around the Blue High School myself personally, and she did some reconstruction of the school, and I really admire that. And but one of my biggest challenges is that when our kids come to school, you know, I think it kind of like sometimes starts at the door. You know, and I say it starts at the door because when you come to school, you allow a kid to come in there with his pants sagging down. You know, you have the security guard there. You might have the assistant principal there. You might have the monitor. There's nobody asking them to pull their pants up. You know what I mean? Then you come in and they not only got their pants hanging down, then they got the hats on their head. You know, I had to go back into the time where when we go into the school, we had to take our hats off. You know, we had to come look presentable. You know, we had to look like we want to do something. And our kids, some of our kids is not geared up for that. You know, they come in with their pants sagging, you know, they had, you know, then the hygiene. You know, it's a lot to really look at. You know, and one thing about Michelle Reed, she kind of did some reconstruction of the school and it basically had upgraded the schools. You know, because kids today, you know, I think that they really want the education. They don't want to take the time to put the energy into it. You know, it's more easier to look in a classroom than to be sitting in a classroom. You know what I mean? Because you have your friend that's in there doing their work, but then I'm one of the ones who want to look in the room. I want to disturb the classes, but I'm the same guy, got my pants hanging down. But not that. You have the monitors who don't enforce the kids to go to class. Not saying at all schools, but most of the schools that I've been, they don't enforce that. And one of the things that they don't enforce because of the attitude of the youth. And a lot of them are more afraid to engage with the youth here in the District of Columbia because of the kids' attitude and how they outbreak. But that's why I come back to consistency. Once a kid know that you're afraid of them, then they kind of like take over the school. They take over the principal, they take over whatever they need to take over. But one thing about personally within myself with United Our Youth, we was able to go to Ballou, and we had to do what we needed to do because we stayed consistent, you know, and we dealt with not the quote unquote the good guys, but the bad guys. Because see, the bad guys, they want somebody to care, to show interest, You know, you follow what I'm saying? So you have to do reverse psychology. That's basically what I'm saying. You know, so I give big up to Michelle Reed with the DC public school system. I really do. You know, and I've seen the transformation myself.
That idea that if something's happening to me, there is somebody who knows. There is somebody who cares, as Clarence mentions. That's pretty important when you're in those years in your life, isn't it, Susan?
Yes, and I think that's called school climate or school culture. And we know what the factors are that we need to have in place, and there are opportunities to change. All students need to be valued. What you saw in the video where the students were very much valued, you could see that there was a lot of pride that each student had in their work. They were talking about independent work, small group work. There was a sense that the student was valued and that the programs were geared to helping that student be successful. Secondly, the parents need to be valued as partners in education. Latino parents especially are very interested in their young person's education. The difficulty for them is often a language barrier at the door at the school, or often a cultural barrier. How do I get into the school? Am I supposed to be part of this process? And there really needs to be a much stronger embrace of the parent and the community into the school role. Thirdly, there was that last scene where all the students were sitting there on netbooks or laptops. That's critical. Technology must be a part of every student and every educator's life. And it's not just enough to have the technology, the hardware in the classroom. There really needs to be education within the classroom as to how that technology can apply in every class in the school, not just in the keyboarding class, but in every class in the school, because as we all know, the adult world is now completely focused on technology. So we need to get young people comfortable with it at school. In many cases, they don't have it yet at home, so the school becomes critical for that. I also want to pick up on one other thing that you commented on, Ray, and that was you said, as this young person leaves school at 3. And I think the critical time in a number of these programs is the time between 3 and 6. Because parents are holding down 2 and 3 jobs to really support the family, especially in this recessionary period. And students are in after-school programs, and there is a real emphasis now on ratcheting up the educational connection between what's happening in the after-school program and what's happening in the school day, especially for young people who are having difficulties with a language issue. This provides a 3-hour wonderful time for them to practice some of the skills in a much less stressful environment and to really integrate what is happening in school with what is happening in their lives and beyond.
Carlos, do we know, are there variables that for success where we can even look at kids in fairly young ages and say, well, this kid's got a shot because of these factors, and this kid is going to have a very tough time because of these factors?
Absolutely. And one piece of data that I'll put out there is in today's economy, the demographers and economists tell us that of all the new jobs that are opening up, 63% of them require a baccalaureate degree. Among Latinos, 13% of the Latino population holds a baccalaureate degree. And given all the demographics statistics that we know, there's going to be a problem if we don't. I mean, there's one now. It's going to be a national crisis, I think, if we don't really confront it. What we've found in our organization is that the support structure is very important for these young men and women. We try to capture them not as early as we would like, but 9th and 10th grade of high school. We get them to a university campus. We get role models in front of them. We provide them with the information they need to navigate the university, the difficulty of getting into a university. And then we work on the motivation, that they can go, that there is financial support for them to attend. In addition to that, we get them mentors who are college students, Latino college students that can talk to them. What we found is giving a student a scholarship is not sufficient. It's necessary. Financial support is necessary. It's not sufficient, particularly in Latino households. You have to provide a support structure that follows that student through the high school and late high school years, into college and beyond. You've got to make sure they stay in college. Colleges today, both public and private, are struggling with college retention and graduation. They want to retain more students, they want to graduate more students. And it's crucial. It's crucial for the society, it's crucial for those institutions as well. So I think we have to look at this as a pipeline issue, as opposed to a funnel. I mean, in many respects, education was a funnel, you know, big at one end and very small at the other. We can't afford to do that anymore. It really has to be a pipeline.